Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Whitney Ziegler. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Rocks Organizing. We are a small, local to Portland, home organizing, estate cleanout, and move management service provider. We're proud to be LGBTQBE, so that's LGBTQ Business Enterprise certified. Tonight, we're here as part of our monthly Ask the Organizer series, and we're focusing on garages and playrooms tonight, probably primarily on garages, depending on the questions that we get from you all. So Maddie Sallin, a wonderful team member of ours, is graciously going to give us a tour of his organized garage and talk through his systems and how he set things up the way he did. And Jess, our operations manager, is going to be assisting from behind the camera and also offering some tips. And then we're going to show you some examples of before and afters, and we'll just kind of talk through. But we also want to hear your specific questions too. So we'd like this to be interactive and participatory. So if you think of questions as we go, please drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Happy to take questions as they come. So with that, Maddie, I'm turning it over to you and Jess.
So I'm excited to show you my garage. Something that I want to mention is that the ideal in organizing is that you put like with like, which would mean all the gardening stuff is in one place. All the hardware stuff is in one place. That is not the situation, and not even in a professional organizer's garage, so I don't want you to feel bad if that's the way it is in your place, because I'm going to show you a pretty well organized garage, but not everything's in one place because it's just too hard. Okay, so, or it's too hard for me. So, starting off over here, this I'm really proud of because we used to just have a bunch of tools that were leaning against a wall. So I got this hook system that you drill into. This is a cinder block garage, so I drilled into the masonry to have this thing, and it has different sized hooks. This one's curved, this one's straight and long, this one is short, etc., etc. And they're all just made for different things that you would hang. So I've got a paint roller and a rake, and then here is a string trimmer, a
Loppers.
cloppers, and an axe, a push broom, and another rake, a shovel, lawn claws. Okay, I'm in love with these. I don't know if you all know about lawn claws, but you put them on like your Wolverine, and it makes gathering up leaves, oops, and throwing them somewhere very satisfying. So lawn claws. And then this is just smaller tools for things like weeding, cleaning a grill, a hori-hori for gardening, etc. And so that was my first big project in garage organization, and I don't hesitate to show this to everybody who comes by to visit. Now underneath, if you do any kind of gardening, you're gonna have big sacks of stuff. So I've got soil building conditioner, I've got potting soil, I have peat moss, etc. And these are always ripped open asunder, and then they spill the contents inside. So it's great for them to go into a bin. I got this bin from IKEA, and it is perfect. I need to get more. I was going to get more, but I didn't pull it together. But it's not expensive, and it's the right size, and that way whatever is inside it, which is potting mix, will just be in there and not on your garage floor. So I used to have these on shelves, but then I realized that they were spilling out onto the shelves and everywhere else, and so I put them all on the floor, which is really where they belong. Okay, this corner is where all the gardening stakes and other long pointy things go. So in gardening, you often end up with a lot of these bamboo things or other kinds of stakes. Or even if it's just a long dowel, they all need to go somewhere, and a corner is where they will lean and not get in your way. Another good thing to do this is if you have a kind of vase with a low center of gravity, or you fill it with rocks so it has a low center of gravity. That's another good thing to put these kinds of stakes and gardening things in, which I probably showed you when I did my basement, because I've got that going on there for indoor dowels
You
as
could
opposed to big
also
things.
get like the cheap 5-gallon buckets at Home Depot, at least to contain them in the
Perfect.
corner. If you
Perfect
have a big
idea.
enough corner, which he doesn't happen to have right there, but it's an option.
Totally. Now, looking over here, just to the right of, or just to the left, if you're entering the garage, I want to show you a few things. So first of all, the lights that are on are going to turn off any minute because they're on a timer. But I noticed that I kept coming into the garage and leaving, and I wanted the garage to turn on, and I found it annoying. I think they're going to be okay now. But actually, with this lead-in, it will actually be satisfying if they turn off. So we want them to turn off. But so that my husband, who doesn't know all the intricacies of our house like I set them up, I put this little guard over the switch so that he doesn't know to turn it on or turn it off, and that way it's always on. And there's a motion detector, which actually, you know what? May I show you right now? So it's right here. This is the motion detector, and it's plugged into this asterisk-shaped multi-plug, which is plugged into an outlet in the ceiling. And so when I walk through that door, it notices my presence and it lights up the lights, except for that one, which is on a pull cord, which I'll get to in a minute. But it's great. I mean, this it's such a benefit. I need to do this with my basement and laundry room. I just haven't gotten around to it. Next, I want to show you, you always need a ladder, right? And so the ladders that are easy to deal with are right here. My favorite is this aluminum ladder. It's a step ladder made by Cobalt. A lot of people make lightweight aluminum ladders. It is so easy and light. Jess, how light is this?
So light.
Right, so love that. May all your ladders be light. Another thing is I take recycling super seriously. So in Multnomah County, at least, we have these bins for glass. So one is right here, but then next to it, I have this metal stand. You can see here, it's a metal stand that I put a large garbage bag into, and I collect aluminum cans. So aluminum cans, and I give them to a local church. I'm not even Christian, I give them to a church. And I also have another one to collect soft plastic that you can, I can donate it to New Seasons Market in my neighborhood will take this kind of plastic, not multi-layer plastic, which is different. This is the kind of plastic that you can like push your thumb, okay, push your thumb through. Ugh, I'm too strong. But you know, the kind that you like, it's like that. That's the kind of plastic that they accept, and so I collect it in this other big bag, and it's there.
And the multi-layer plastic, an easier way to tell is because it's typically crunchier than the regular plastic film. The plastic film is more like, think saran wrap. Let's take a pause real quick and check in if anybody had any questions before we move on.
And I've asked Jean to share our team's recycling guide in the chat, and we'll also send it out in the follow-up email. We created this 10-page detailed recycling guide for what to recycle where in the Portland metro area, and hopefully you'll find it a helpful tool.
I think it's awesome. I actually find it helpful. I've given it to neighbors, so definitely check it out.
Okay, moving on with this cluster over here, we have a wheelbarrow that was left here by the previous owners. It takes up less space when it's on its end. It does prove useful, but for the love of God, get a two-wheeled wheelbarrow, because when this is filled with heavy firewood or dirt, it is very unstable and will tip over. So I wish it were two-wheeled. I also have, over here is just like barbecue stuff. Some propane tanks and the barbecue, which is not that interesting, but I splurged and got an e-bike, and I have my e-bike parking is here, and this is my cord to plug it in, and so it's all zip tied up from the rooftop outlet, so that it was always, gravity was always disconnecting this part from this part, and so I kind of bound it up with zip ties, and now it's fine. But then I kept reversing my bike out while it was charging and forgot it was still connected. So I put these clothespins on it just as a like, hello, this is a cord here, so that I would notice if I were dragging it out. So that's that for this.
So Maddie, I'm just going to gently interrupt. So we would call those clothespins a visual cue in organizing language, formal language.
Yes, and to maximize the visual cueness, I have one going this way and one going that way, so in case it was angled where I couldn't see it, I would see the other one. All right.
Thank you.
So,
We have a question from Jean Harkin wondering if you barbecue in your garage.
no, but we roll it out, so it's right here, so you can just easily, well, not easily, you can easily roll it out like that, and that's where we barbecue.
Awesome, thank you.
And that's why it's there. Okay, so I love shelving. I love shelving and I love drawers for organization. So I got as many shelves as I could to line this whole wall with them. In the winter, they're often filled with firewood, which is why they're pretty empty right now. It's not like I'm some amazingly organized guy who just doesn't have stuff to put on the shelves. Where is it? So over here, I wanted to show, though, what I keep at the ready are these 3 things that I use in the garden all the time. This is for the evil tree of heaven invasive plant that I need to stop in its tracks. This is for fertilizing, and then this is sunflower chips for my bird feeder. And so I'm always going in to get these, so I just put them there so that they're right there when I walk through. This over here is stuff that I need to donate. This is stuff I need to fix, but I don't know, not much more to say about that. And then we have kind of more gardening things here and sand for this paver project I was doing. I mean, this is really what a garage is, right? It just accumulates.
Maddie,
Yes.
were those shelves, I think I saw labels for your donate items and things you need to fix.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. And I'm curious, it looks like something with leaves. What's on the very top of the shelves?
Ah, so glad you asked that. So Jeremy, my husband, has this idea of doing this folk horror themed Blair Witch adjacent decor for Halloween. But we're going out of town. We're actually going out of country this year for Halloween. So I guess it's for next year Halloween 2026. So he's accumulated all these branches and he ties them and binds them, and they're in circles and there's thistles, and I don't know honestly, I don't know if anything's going to happen with it. All right, so over here we continue with my recycling passion. So we've talked before about James Recycling. They accept all kinds of stuff that the Multnomah County won't accept. And so I have bins for all those things. So we have straws and utensils. You can see how much I've got. Corks, plastic caps and lids. These accumulate. Light bulbs, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and floss. Cord, string lights, and appliances. And then number 4 items, number 4 plastic, which, see, I told you, it's on a timer. Now, Jess is gonna turn it on. There you go, it worked. Okay, so number 4 plastic, and you can tell by looking real close, it happens to be right there on this lid. number 2 plastic, and these are just reflective address markers I got from the hardware store to identify what they are. And then over here is like my rejects corner of things that I took to James Recycling because I thought they would accept it, but these are actually accepted by Multnomah County. They accept things with a mouth, like things with a narrower mouth than the body, something like that. Anyways, these are just here as like my examples of don't recycle these to James, just put them in the regular recycling. So they're just there as a reference. And then I used to have a bin for styrofoam, but as relatively new homeowners, we keep buying things that are wrapped in evil, evil styrofoam. And so the best I could do for now is the very helpful IKEA bag. So right now it's got all the styrofoam and this stuff, which is, what is this stuff?
I don't know what they call that, Whitney, that like styrofoam paper type material.
Called squishy foam.
Okay, squishy foam. So
And as a side note, Ridwell does take styrofoam if you're a Ridwell member as a add-on. So if I were to put out a bag of styrofoam for my Ridwell pickup, they would just add $10 and take it away and have it recycled.
I am not a Ridwell member, so these I take to be recycled across the river in like the industrial section of the Northwest.
Well, James Recycling takes them too now, Maddie. They take styrofoam.
That's true. They do take styrofoam, but they're further away from me. It's more of a drive. It's more of a shot.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yes, I bring it there when I do my full James recycling round.
Can I ask you about you had some dental like toothbrushes and things like that. You're donating those to James Recycling, or are those going to a shelter or somewhere else?
No, they're empty. So they're going to James
Oh, okay.
Recycling.
Gotcha.
And to know what James Recycling takes, I have taken the unusual step of getting this gigantic bulletin board, and I printed out what they take and laminated it and put it here. And then I also did it for what this is what Multnomah County takes, and this is what James Recycling takes, and this is what Green City Recycling takes. So it's my quick weatherproof reference that I lean against here, because over here is where I throw stuff in the recycling or in the trash, and so I can just check to see if it's where it goes from there.
It is very smart, and I am not surprised in the least that you made a board for yourself with all of the recycling information, because that is just who you are.
And that's what led me to actually buy my own Amazon Basics personal laminator. So, all right, moving onwards. So this is kind of like the hodgepodge stuff that ends up in the garage. All kinds of scary sprays and like cleaners and things to wash your car with. I have aerator boots for the lawn and work gloves here. And then drip system things. Oh, I said I love a drawer. Drawers are so useful because you have loose items that would roll around if they weren't in a vessel of some sort, but you want them to be covered, so you put them in a drawer, which I don't even know where I got this, but probably the Container Store.
Well,
So
Maddie, I noticed that your drawers are clear. Is that intentional?
it sure is helpful because then you can look through. I mean, I like to get translucent as often as possible so that I can see what's in there. So, drip system, random gardening items, automotive items are here. Here's my sander. Here's sanding stuff like the glasses and the mask and the grater thing and all that. So as much as I can have that organized, I do have it organized. The rest is kind of a mishmash of paint and paint stuff and stain stuff, which is all down here that you can see. Moving on to here, this is my workstation, work table, workbench. where I have my new chop saw that I got for Christmas, and I love it. And I have various other, I don't know, building kind of stuff around here, like razor blades and this angle and pencils and stuff, and all these clamps, etc. Oh, light went off again. There it goes. And then, so that's just kind of tool stuff, and I have tooly stuff over here too. Below here, oh, I have more recycling. I've got the number 5 recycling is just my cup runneth over. Whoa, my bin runneth over. And my number 1 recycling is in the largest bin I could find at IKEA, and I just need to get more of these because this stuff accumulates. Now, the way that my recycling system works is this. You can stay there. So I have this bucket, also from IKEA, that I keep in the kitchen, and this is where I save items from the recycling or the trash that I know need to go to James Recycling. And so I just put them in here, and it's a hodgepodge. And then I eventually, when it gets full, I look at it and I see what number it is, and I put it where it needs to go. And if it turns out that it still has food attached to it, I put it in this bin that I also got from IKEA, and this is my go back and wash it bin, which is empty because I'm so responsible.
Maddie, we have a follow-up question from Jean Harkin about, can you explain a little bit more about the dental stuff? What is recyclable and what's not, as far as floss, empty toothpaste tubes, things like that? Could you go into more depth for us, please?
Okay, so, oh, whoa, sorry. All right, so James Recycling, where does it say? Where does it say toothpaste? Is it over here? Corks. Here we go. Okay, so toothbrushes, floss containers, and toothpaste tubes is what James Recycling accepts. So I collect those, but also I have shaving cream that comes in a tube that's pretty much identical to a toothpaste tube. And so I throw that in there too, and we'll see if they accept it next time I take it there. And that shaving cream is called Cremo, which is a great brand if you want to support it.
Thank you so much. Just a thought, have you ever considered hanging that up above your recycling bins on the wall? I know it's concrete and probably a pain to drill into, but just curious.
Well, that would be a wise solution. However, if you notice over here, these sinister looking drip marks. Wave your arms. There you go. These sinister looking drip marks indicate that this is not a watertight building. And so I used to have it here, and the water would go down through it and then created all this. I don't know if it's mold, I don't know what it is, it's gross. So yeah, I tried that. It leaned against the wall. This is what happened. So then I'm leaning against this for now. I need to come up with a better solution. All right. Another thing I want to show you is
I just thought of something though.
Oh, yeah.
You could mount it in your rafter, you know, like if you made a little frame and like drilled in up there and had it hanging right over the recycling, so it's like kind of a wall when you walk in.
That is actually a great idea. Okay. All right. Tune in next year when I have it there.
This is why, more heads are better than one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty gross. I think I need to get a new bulletin board anyway. All right. This is another product I love for dealing with gardening, especially in fall. It's a leaf bin, and it's pretty tough. I don't know what this is made out of. Do you have fiberglass? Fiber something? But it's really tough, and I just fill this with leaves and branches and whatever needs to be composted, because we compost here in Multnomah County. And what I learned is that if you put food if your compost bin is empty, and I'm talking about this, if your compost bin is empty and you put food into it, after a while it will develop the most horrible smell in the world. But the way you mitigate that is after properly cleaning it out. Wow, that was really quick. Is after proper cleaning it out, is you put a bed of dead leaves in there first. So compost day was today, so it's empty. So I went around and I picked up extra leaves using my long claws and put them in there. So now there's a bed of leaves, and I can put food stuff in it and it won't be too gross. So that's what this is for. Another thing I
Something
do.
Oh, I just wanted to share a quick tip. Something that I do if I have something really stinky that needs to go out is I'll put it in a bag in the freezer and then I'll just put it out like the night before the compost bin's going to be picked up. But if you had a large volume, it might not fit in the freezer, but just an idea for those especially stinky things.
That makes sense. That's a good idea. A friend of mine keeps his compost, all of his compost is in a paper grocery bag that he keeps in his freezer, which I think is also a great solution. Our freezer is completely filled up with food and ice cream, so it doesn't work for us, but I think it's a good idea. So to get things out of the compost bin, sometimes it gets like there's sticky, mucky stuff, and so that's why I have the yuck stick. This is just a paint stirrer that I use to kind of like dig the stuff out from the compost, my kitchen compost bin, to make it unstick and get into there. And I never want to touch the other side of it, but I mean, it's pretty clear what side you touch of the yuck stick.
And I just want to point out that it is actually labeled yuck stick.
Yeah. So, in fact, it's
I love
labeled
it.
yuck stick on both sides. Because you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to touch the yucky side of the yuck stick.
That's awesome.
Moving on over here, let's see. The house already came with these hooks in the ceiling, and I moved them around a little bit, but not too much. But they're good for things like my grabby. This is for when I have two of these. One is for picking up trash in the neighborhood because I'm that guy. The other one, this is for when I drop something in the trash that needs to be recycled or vice versa. And so I reach in with this to get it. And then it's always good to have a long extension cord. Over here, I don't know, we got two snow shovels so that me and the husband can both shovel us out when there's snow, which, I don't know, like once a year. And then there's just random things that accumulate. Like I need to recycle these fluorescent tubes and I haven't gotten around to it, so they're just leaning against this wall. I got a bunch of pavers from Facebook Marketplace that I didn't use. They're just hanging out. So, things that accumulate in a garage. All my wood slats are here in the corner for doing wood projects. Jess is gonna wave her arms around again. There we go. So, you need wood for wood projects, and so they're all here laying against the wall. And then something that Jeremy thought of that I didn't realize was for all the things that are like tables or cornhole games, when you're not using them, you lean them so that the open side is facing out so that spiders, because otherwise spiders will build homes on it if it's facing in. And so this way it kind of discourages the spiders because yuck. And so that's what these tables and things are doing over here. And then other things that are hanging up, camping stuff, camp chair, gravity chair, and inner tube. And this is pretty much it. And then a very long ladder is over here, and a bike pump is over here. And these pieces of wood, in case sometimes you need a big piece of plywood. But that's pretty much the garage.
I would say in the grand scheme of garages that I would consider y'all minimalists. So I wouldn't feel bad if your garage has a ton more than this because I feel that the majority of folks have more than this in their garage.
And the
Oh,
majority of Americans cannot park in their garage.
one,
Yep.
one extra thing is this off-brand vacuum cleaner was left by the previous owners, so we leave it here in the garage to vacuum out our car, which feels really luxurious. Like it feels like
You're fancy.
it feels fancy to have, the hose and be like, just like you work in a car wash. Oh, and another thing, I noticed that when I was putting the trash cans, sorry, when I was putting the trash cans up against the wall, they were too close to the wall and the lids would fall back down. So what I did was, you can see here, I put two boards of wood here to be a barrier, so I can't go any further, and that way they are just the right distance so that when I open, the lid stays open.
Smart.
Very clever. Maddie, thank you so much for the tour of your garage. I'm curious if anyone here today has questions for Maddie. Question from Melissa. Do you have any plans when you add bikes? So Melissa's the question, what would you do with multiple bikes?
Yeah, you only have one bicycle, but there's at least two people. And my thought is we have at least three bikes. And if I had an electric bike, that'd be a fourth bike.
Yeah, that's a great point. My husband is afraid of bikes, so I'm the only biker. But I actually do have a second bike, which I left in the basement of a friend across town that I need to get before the rain starts. But yeah, I think hooks in the ceiling would be a great solution. I just
Right.
haven't done it.
Also, like if you happen to not have cinder block walls that make it really difficult, they make bike racks where you can hang like 2 or 3 bikes down and then they fold flat against the wall so that they're not sticking out or hanging somewhere. So
That is so cool.
you would basically
Yeah.
hook it up there and then push it flat, which is kind of cool. And they're not as expensive as you would think. They're not cheap, but they're fairly within reach, I would say.
That's kind of like having an arm for a TV that could swivel against the wall and swivel out, but for bikes, multiple bikes. We've recommended those for clients. We had another question in the chat. Where did you get your trash bag holder?
I got that from Amazon. I think it's called like a garbage bag stand or something, but I can look it up later. But actually, here, I'm going to show you what it looks like without the stuff. Okay, so this is pretty much full, so I'm going to call it and empty it. And this, oops, is what it looks like on its own. This is, just needs to be put back in here. There we go. So that's what it looks like. And it's very easy to deal with.
And it has little screws, it looks like, so you can tighten those poles in. So I would imagine they're not popping out all the time.
Right. Just popped out while it's on camera.
Of course.
Here, I'll tighten it right here. There. Oh,
Harry says, sweet, thank you.
yeah.
What other questions do folks have for Maddie or maybe about your specific garage? Is there a challenge that you're trying to find a creative solution for? That would work for parties or barbecues. Yes, any of that pop-up garbage can would be really great for parties and barbecues for sure. And thank you, Jean from Big Rocks, from our team for putting the link in the chat. We'll put any resources mentioned tonight and any links, we'll send them in the follow-up email so you don't have to frantically write things down or try to save the chat. Ta-da! Nice, Maddie. Well, if nobody else has questions for Maddie, we could go ahead and show you some slides from some garages that we've worked on for clients, and we can talk through some strategies and tips. And please feel free to ask questions if you think of anything along the way. And Maddie, thank you again so much for the tour of your garage. We really appreciate it. So here's a before and after of a garage that we did where we wanted to have things, off the floor and then just better sorted and organized for easy access and easy put away. So you can see on the right-hand side, we've got the clear bins like Maddie was using. They're very clearly labeled. We also have, sorry, it's a little bit hard to tell from the first to the second one. You can see things have been rearranged so you can park in there. There's a lot more space. And again, you can see exactly what you have. And then the artwork has been put up on the walls too. And it's totally nice to make your garage homey by adding some personal touches as well. All right, next slide, Jean. Thank you. This one was quite a big project, but we got it done in a day with multiple team members. And Melissa, you asked about bikes. Here it are some that are hung overhead. There are some pulley systems that make it easier so you don't have to lift them overhead, but you can use the pulley to lift and lower the bikes for easier access and to create more floor space. In this one, we had some zones. So you'll see like where the golf clubs are is the sporting goods zone. There's with the chairs, camping. So it's really nice if you kind of think through what do I need my garage to do for me? What are the zones? Do I need a recycling zone? Do I need a gardening zone? Sports, camping? Whatever might be in your garage. Some people use part of their garage as a workout space. So kind of list out what do you need your garage to do for you? And we use that as kind of a guide for when we're making decisions and going through what to keep, what to rehome. That can be a really great starting point. Next slide. So here's another one. Let me know if you have specific questions. Another zone that's really common with our clients is like the pantry or Costco shopping overflow. You get those big packages of paper towels or toilet paper, and you don't have enough room inside your house to store them all. And then the quantity ebbs and flows as you use products. So it's nice to kind of have an extra set of shelves out in the garage, maybe close to the door to your house for that overflow. Next slide. Here's another one where we kind of helped tame the chaos a bit. Things were not really categorized, just put helter-skelter on shelves and in front of shelves. So we created some zones. Some items were for business. So we had a business section, like things to take to the office, cleaning supplies, coffee, things like that, paper towels. And then we had personal yard care, beverages, cleaning chemicals. So we had different sections, different zones here. Next
Can I
one.
just throw in a quick note, Whitney?
Yeah, please do.
So we talked about it a little bit when we did Maddie's basement, but I think it's also helpful, like you said, you had a zone for business stuff. So like say we have a client that's a realtor that has signs and, home staging things that they need to grab and go. It's a lot easier if you have all of those things in a single bin or container with a lid that's sturdy. You could just grab it and go like I do with my camping gear. So not only having zones, but having the things that you leave with, like camping gear closest to where the car would be, or closest to the exit if you can't get your car in the garage. Just ease of access.
That's a great tip, Jess. And we have in our garage too, we have car camping bins that has everything we need if we're car camping or staying in a cabin or a yurt or something. Again, you could just grab it and go, and it makes trip planning so much easier. And then we restock it right when we get home because it's fresh in our minds, like what needs to be restocked, what's missing. On a separate note, you can see here a good use of vertical space with these tools on the wall. So I think most garages have vertical space that hasn't been maximized. So you can see the shelves go all the way to the ceiling. The tools are pretty high up. We're stacking things on top of the filing cabinet just to maximize that vertical space. Next slide. Okay, I don't know if people want to see the tour of the Big Rocks garage. We'll include a link later. It's about 7 minutes long. So I think we'll skip this so we can also touch base on playrooms if people would like to. But before we talk about playrooms, I'm curious if any of you have garage specific questions. Or maybe there's some zones that are important to you that we haven't featured today.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Um, so like I don't know what you would call it, but like a dumping ground area, like when you get home and you um empty out your car, with your Costco stuff, grocery shop, a day trip or whatever kind of trip. Um, I need to create one for our garbage, that way we're not setting stuff on the floor. It's just in one place. I don't know if anybody has any ideas then for that.
Jess, do you want to talk about drop zones?
Sure. So drop zones can extend from inside the house also out to the garage. So you have walking in the house, you throw down your keys or your purse or your wallet and your phone, hats and gloves in the winter, things like that. Those can also come in handy in other areas of the house and the garage. I think what's good about Maddie's garage is that he's got his recycling station set up where it's right where you walk in the door coming from the house. It's also right next to the car. So you could possibly have, like, if you have the space, I would consider a small folding table as the drop zone. This way you have some place to set the things, but it contains it to that small table footprint so that you don't let it get too out of control and then it becomes a big project to clean it all up.
Yeah, speaking to that, I have a good sized folding table that's folded up because I don't want to create another surface in the garage because then it'll just fill up with stuff.
Yeah, it's always better to have designated homes for everything rather than having a drop zone when possible. I do understand the need for them from time to time. But if you are going to do that, I would look at what's getting dropped in the drop zone, see if there's a better way you could set that up in a more permanent space. And then maybe you get to the point where you don't need the table anymore.
Is that helpful, Yesenia, or do you have any follow-up questions?
No, I think going small is a good idea, not making that a permanent spot and out of control. Easy to do.
Yeah, those horizontal spaces can really be magnets for collecting anything and everything. As human beings, we have a tendency to fill the space available to us, and that's what we do. So, yeah, I think as Jess and Maddie suggested, just limiting that to a small space and a temporary space sounds like a great tip. Thank you both. What other questions do folks have? Connie, I saw you came off mute.
Oh, hi. Sorry I came in late. So this
Oh,
may
that's
have
fine.
already been addressed, but um, I wondered if you talked at all about emergency supplies or your go bag or extra supplies for an emergency. Because sometimes you can't get in the house or you're running. I always try to keep one in the car, but is is there, do you plan for that in the garage?
I do have a zone for that in my garage where I've got some water stored and flashlights and other emergency things, some food. Maddie or Jess or anybody else who's here, would you like to speak to that? Does anyone else keep emergency supplies in their garage?
I don't have a garage, so my go bag is in my bedroom closet, but I also do have a small emergency bag in my car.
And we have a go bag and water supplies, but they're in the entryway closet. But it'd probably be wise to have something in the garage.
We also keep a generator in the garage for power outages and emergencies.
Smart.
It depends on space people have available though, right?
Yeah, definitely. My go bag is small.
What other questions do folks have about garages?
I wanted to make a comment real quick.
Sure.
Um, I certainly need to organize my garage. Um, but I do have a long, narrow house and I have a garage in the back. And I go on a walk every night. And so, because I do that, and the only entrance into my house is either through the front door or the garage, I have a panel on the outside of the garage that takes a code. And that's what I use. I don't carry a key. And because of that, I keep a box with batteries in my side yard, in my gardening box, so that if that those batteries die, I can actually put new batteries in, and I keep a key box outside in that side yard to get in through my front door if the power goes out.
That's really smart. We also have older adults, like my mom has a key box. It's not one that takes batteries, but it has a 4-digit code and it has a key to her house. So if she called 911 or if anyone needed to get in and the front door was locked, we could still access her house using that key. And I've advised clients, especially clients who live alone, to put that in place.
I have both of those. I have the batteries in case the keypad goes out, and that box in case the power goes out while I'm out on my walk, which would probably never happen, but what if?
It's good to have a backup to the backup. So that's really smart thinking, Laura. Thanks for sharing that tip.
For the Costco drop zone where you have the Costco overflow, do you recommend like holding space, when you're on your last paper towel, don't put something else there because you're going to go buy another giant pack of paper towels? Or how do you not fill those spaces?
It's really tempting as human beings, right? You see an empty space and you want to fill it. If you have the space, Melissa, in your garage and on the shelf to do that, you could have kind of labels or even use kind of tape to mark off some blue tape. This is where the paper towels go when we have a full package coming in. I think that would be ideal, but for a lot of us, we don't have that extra space, so we kind of have to have that ebb and flow. Let's see, we had a question in the chat. Amari says there are bags similar to the one Maddie used for trash that will hold unbelievable amounts of weight. They were originally used in Japan at construction sites for hauling large amounts of concrete. They make them in a slightly smaller size than Maddie's, so they're easy to use for supersized totes. She got hers on QVC and knows the Snow Joe company has had them in the past. They usually come in sets of 2 or 3 for a reasonable price, and they fold down some. Thank you so much, Mari, for sharing that, and we'll try to find a link and share that, in the post-event email. With the time that we have left, if you'll humor me, we'll talk a little bit about playrooms. And even if we don't currently have one in our house, I know a lot of us have kids or grandkids, or you might get some tips for organizing other spaces in your house that are acting as kind of a creative zone. Jean, would you be willing to put our slideshow back up for playrooms?
While she's looking for it, I will just say right off the bat, I encourage folks to start their kids young on organizing their own stuff. And some people think, well, my kid is too little, they're not ready, they can't read. But I started my son very, very young with keeping his own toys organized. And when he was pre-reading, I would just put little picture labels. So I would put a picture of blocks on the front of the bin and always have open bins. So it was very visual and easy for him to see what goes where. And I think it's really good to start that kind of habit building when they're young. I think we don't tend to give our kids enough credit sometimes. They have huge capacity to absorb information, and it will make your life a lot easier down the line, I assure you. It certainly did with mine.
And it will make their life easier and their partner's life easier. It's definitely a skill that keeps on giving, and it's a transferable skill. We can all learn organizing skills, and most of us were not taught them growing up. So I'm glad that your son had you, Jess. So this is a before and after of a playroom, and you could see we created some different zones. You've got the books. There's a reading nook that you can't really see that's offsite here. On the right-hand side, there's a little art studio area set up underneath the skylight where the light is good. And then we have toys in those pull-out bins there. Next slide. Here's a children's closet. So again, putting like with like, as Maddie talked about. And everything is easy to grab and put away, very accessible. Next slide. Here's one way you can definitely containerize like small, painful things like Legos. Who hasn't stepped on those in the middle of the night? The little cars here, art supplies. So having baskets or bins can make life really easy, and you can just toss them in at the end of the night and clean them up. You can play the cleanup song.
Just
And
remember, if your kids are too little, you want to keep your art supplies out of reach because you don't want to find your kid after a nap covered in paint all over your carpet and your furniture and your walls.
oh no, or ingesting art supplies.
Yeah, typically they're non-toxic, so it's not quite as worrisome as getting it out of the carpet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yesenia asked, does anyone reward themselves after your own decluttering organizational chore? Yes, absolutely. Some people I know, Jess loves music. I love ice cream. So whatever is a good treat or reward for you and a healthy one, could be a walk in the neighborhood, whatever's a good motivator for you. Next slide, Jean. Here are some other ideas, like all the stuffies. You can use a hammock, which also makes great use of vertical space, so they're not taking up floor space. And other bins. Legos are but definitely a big pain point for a lot of our clients who have kids. Sorry, next slide. Here is a closet. We had some overflow from the playroom. So what we did was we took about 20-25% of the kids' toys and we put them in the closet. We took them out of rotation so that once a quarter, the parents could then swap out a different 20-25% of the toys, and they felt like they were new to the kids and they were excited, and it was that sense of novelty. So it's kind of great if you have a space where you can rotate things in and out.
That's also a good way to determine what they've grown out of and what they really don't have interest in anymore. You know, if you put something away for 3 or 4 months and they don't ask for it, it's likely they may not want it. And I always suggest having the conversation with your kids and not just sneaking their stuff out, which I have done in the past, I won't lie. But, you know, ideally you want to involve them in the decision making there. But I think you'd be surprised to see when you rotate things out how little they actually ask about and go looking for.
Absolutely. Jean, do we have any other slides? That was that for the playrooms. Does anybody have any other questions or comments about either playrooms or garages? And Mari, thank you for sharing in the chat that you also have a lockbox with a house key, and that when you were in the hospital and rehab, it was invaluable and it made it easier for multiple people to come into your home to support you. That is great. Any recommendations on how many books is a reasonable amount for picture books? Jess, do you want to speak to that one? Melissa also comments, they seem to stack on a shelf and then none get found.
Yeah, they do make those like magazine rack type bookshelves for kids' room, which I think are helpful because then they're all on display and more likely to get picked up and looked at. I would see, you know, it depends on what space you have, but I would, if I say had one of those in a playroom, I would limit the number of books to that and then kind of observe and, you know, work out the ones that they're not looking at anymore, stick them in a little free library. Maybe you pick up a new one at the free library and sneak it onto the shelf as a surprise. But, you know, when it's comes to picture books, I would say generally like a dozen is plenty. But that was just, you know, me and my experience with my kiddo.
I think you could definitely set your own guidelines for your family, Melissa. It could be for picture books, magazines, whatever it might be for all of us. It's kind of good to have some household guidelines that we come up with together with the people that we live with and just for ourselves. With that, we're out of time for today, but I would like to invite you all to come back in the first Tuesday of November from 5 to 6 p.m. It's November 4th. So next month, we're going to be focusing on sentimental items and photo organizing. How do you tackle those items that are really hard to go through and let go of? And then what do you do with all of these photos, all of these memories, these items have attached to them? So that will be our focus for next month. And a week from yesterday, the 13th, from 12 to 1, we have our Right Sizing Rock Stars. It's a free virtual support group, completely non-judgmental. You can come check in, let us know what you're working on, let us know if you have any challenges or you need some resources or support, and you set your goals and then you come back the next month and check in. You also get a free workbook on right sizing room by room in the home. It has a lot of resources and links in it as well. And then every month that you attend Right Sizing Rockstars in December, we're going to do a drawing and someone will win 3 hours with two of our organizers, which is a $570 value. And if you don't live in the Portland metro area, we'll do virtual organizing with you instead. But that's a free service that we offer is Right Sizing Rockstars. And this Friday is our 10-year anniversary as a business. So we're hosting a celebration. Thank you to those of you who have purchased tickets in support of Rosehaven. We are partnering with them to raise money. It's a local nonprofit and it's a women and children's day shelter. They support folks of marginalized genders, folks experiencing houselessness. They serve over 200 guests per day with dignity and provide showers, financial assistance, medical assistance, all kinds of wonderful things that folks are needing. The vast majority of the folks accessing services are working. But as we all know, sometimes even if you're working full time, it's not enough to afford shelter. Where we live, there's a very high cost of living. So if you're able to come out and celebrate with us, we're going to drop a link in the chat to come. It's this Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Rosehaven Day Shelter, and it is in Northwest Portland. With that, thank you so much for being with us tonight. If you have any questions afterwards, please reach out. We'll get the recording out and the resources out to you in about a week. So thank you so much for coming tonight. I hope you have a great evening.